It was a combination of factors. It was the position that the National Party took on the Voice in opposing the Voice, which I didn't agree with. I support that process of working through an Indigenous voice for Parliament and seeing what we can do together on it. I think it's a really important piece of work for Australia. The other thing also was just seeing the devastation that our region has suffered through in recent weeks, through these storms and floods, and also the gas crisis that we've had. It really reinforced to me the importance of standing up for what you believe in and standing up and being counted. So that's why I made the decision.
Do you think that the Nationals are out of date, out of touch?
The National Party today is very different to the National Party that I grew up with. So I was once a true believer. I grew up handing out how-to votes for the National Party. I even took National Party stickers to school and handed them out. How sad is that for a student? So I was a true believer, but I've just lost the faith. And the National Party of those days, the days of my youth, is very different to the party that I see today.
What makes it different?
I think the membership base is much smaller now. So back in those days, there were hundreds of members in the National Party in each branch. It was big, bold, and it was vibrant. But the National Party today is much smaller, and the numbers are reducing every single year. And I think that the National Party you see today is not necessarily reflective of the way that our regional communities are growing and the way that they are developing, including out here in the Central West.
How does it impact the Nationals and the way they operate in terms of having a smaller membership base?
I think any party and any political discussion needs opposing points of view, and so you have to have that back and forwards, that toing and froing. It makes for a robust discussion, but it also makes for good policy. And my concern is that we're not seeing as much of that anymore. And so I was really surprised when that press conference on The Voice was called and what was purported to be a united front opposing The Voice was put forward, which was not my position, and certainly the party had been put on notice that it wasn't my position. And I just don't know why that had to happen in the way that it did so quickly. I mean, the point of this is to work through it, and it needs to be a national conversation. And so you can support it or you can oppose it, but let's have that conversation and work through it and see what we can do together. And I really believe that that's what we should be doing as a national party. And since I've taken my stand on it, I've had many emails and calls from not only this area but all around Australia saying, yes, this is what we should do. Now, at the end of the day, if people don't support it, that's fine. It's a democracy. You can vote against it. But the fundamental issue here is that the rest of Australia will get a free vote on The Voice at a referendum. Yet, for National Party MPs, a party position has been taken where there's an expectation that we will fall into line behind that and vote accordingly in the Parliament on a position which we do not believe in, or I do not believe in, I should say. And I think there just comes a point where you can make too many compromises, and I think the events out here of the last few weeks have really brought home to me that you've got to stand up and be counted. And so that's why I've made this decision, and people may agree with it, they may disagree with it, they may agree with The Voice or disagree with it. They may agree with me that the rollout of support for our storm and flood hit communities has been way too slow. That was another reason why I've made this decision. It's because you need to speak out on those issues. And even the announcement that was made about these $20,000 back home grants, they've been announced, but they still haven't been delivered. So just before Christmas, you get this grand announcement and you've got what is said to be this shiny present under everyone's trees, but that money's not even available yet. You can't even access it on the Service New South Wales website. So we need to call this stuff out when we need to. And as an MP, that's part of representing our constituents. And I feel that I can best speak out on these issues free of party constraints.
In terms of that flood funding in particular, it wasn't the Nats that were holding that back, really. So how would sitting as an independent help you in that process and getting, fast-tracking those kinds of things?
Because I'm free to speak out on it. So this was the New South Wales and the federal government buck-passing and finger-pointing between each other. And as a member of the National Party, they are in coalition to form the New South Wales government. So it's their responsibility. And I'm much freer now to speak out on those issues than I ever was before, because I don't have to worry about the constraints of a party position or the constraints of a party line, because we're heading into a state election coming up in March. And I really did feel those constraints, and I felt that I was always coming up against these party constraints that were stopping me from speaking as freely as I wanted to. And our communities want us to speak freely on these issues. And when we see that assistance isn't being delivered fast enough, then we have to speak up. And I think what also got to me was that we've had press conference after press conference out at places like Eugowra, but in other parts of the region as well. And these big announcements get made, but they're not matched by action. And you saw that with these back home grants. Why has it taken almost 6 weeks to actually get an announcement on it? Governments can move really quickly when they want to. So why didn't they want to? And just seeing how all of that panned out on the ground, and seeing, I think, the stage management of those press conferences also, I think it just made me increasingly disillusioned with that process. And I just thought enough's enough. Like, this is where it ends.
You're going to be joining a growing number of people on the crossbench. Are you excited about that? Do you think that you'll have more power, even though you're not part of a major party?
Well, look, as a National Party MP federally, you're in opposition anyway, and so you could argue that in opposition you can't get anything done. I will be advocating and fighting as hard as I can for our communities, just as I have always done, to make sure that we get the services and the infrastructure that we need to ensure that our region continues to offer the unbeatable quality of life that we know it does have. So the fundamental mission remains the same. I'll just be doing it from a different part of the parliament. So it'll be a new experience, and some people may like it, some people may not like it, but it is the path that I have chosen, and we'll just have to see how it goes. But I think that I can get things done. The Prime Minister has already called me today, and I had a good conversation with him, and so there's a good working relationship there, and I'll look to continue that, but I won't be backward in criticising the government if I feel I have to, and I won't be backward in putting our projects on the table and making sure that they get a good look at by this federal government.
And just lastly, is this a reflection on how people feel about politics today?
I often get people coming up to me and saying that they're disillusioned with politics. And look, for quite a while I've had to say, look, I get disillusioned too, but I have to try to put that aside and keep going to try to get results and try to deliver for people. But I think there is definitely a growing disillusionment with mainstream parties. That's why I'm not in one anymore, because I've been feeling that keenly for a long time now, and I've been carrying it around like a weight, and the weight's been lifted today, and so I feel in a sense relieved that I don't have to carry it around anymore, and that I can have those conversations with people without having to worry about what a party position is. And so, yeah, I think this trend has been going on for quite a while now. Certainly, ever since I came into politics in 2011, that trend has been something that has definitely been there, but it only seems to be growing, and people are getting less rusted on. And I think that's also the case that we're seeing generational shifts and demographic shifts in our communities as well. And I think that may have something to do with it as well, in terms of there just aren't as many people who feel as rusted on to a political party as there used to be. Now, there are still those out there, and a number of those people used to be my supporters. And so I hope that they will understand why I've had to take that step. But I would also say that if there are supporters of mine who feel that way, come and join me, because we've got work to do, and it starts today. It's work from a different perspective, but it is beginning. So I would ask folks to join me in that work. Come with me on the journey.